The grand ballroom sparkled under the crystal chandeliers as Kate smoothed her elegant navy dress one last time. Tonight was the annual charity banquet, one of the most important events on the royal calendar. She had been looking forward to this evening for weeks, but lately, something felt different. The exhaustion that had been creeping up on her for months seemed to be getting worse. "You look beautiful," William whispered as he adjusted his bow tie beside her. His warm smile made her heart flutter just like it did when they first met. After all these years of marriage, he still had that effect on her. "Thank you," she replied softly, trying to push away the strange dizziness that had been bothering her all day. "I just hope I can make it through the evening without embarrassing myself." William's brow furrowed with concern. He had noticed Kate's declining energy lately, how she would excuse herself early from meetings, how she seemed to struggle with simple tasks that once came naturally to her. "Are you feeling all right? We could always leave early if you need to." Kate shook her head firmly. "No, this is too important. The children's hospital depends on the funds we raise tonight. I'll be fine." She forced a bright smile, but William wasn't convinced. He had learned to read his wife's expressions over the years, and something in her eyes told him she was pushing herself too hard. The couple made their entrance into the ballroom, where hundreds of guests awaited them. The room erupted in polite applause as they descended the grand staircase. Kate waved gracefully, her practiced smile never faltering despite the growing unease in her stomach. The light seemed brighter than usual, almost blinding, and the noise of conversations felt overwhelming. As they moved through the crowd, greeting dignitaries and donors, Kate tried to focus on each conversation. Mrs. Henderson, the hospital's chief fundraiser, approached them with enthusiasm. "Your Royal Highness, thank you so much for being here tonight. The children are so excited about the new wing we'll be able to build with tonight's donations." Kate nodded and smiled, but the woman's words seemed to echo strangely in her ears. The room felt like it was spinning slightly, and she gripped William's arm a little tighter. He immediately noticed the change in her grip and glanced at her with worry. "That's wonderful news," Kate managed to say, her voice steady despite feeling increasingly unwell. "The children deserve the best care possible." They continued their rounds, stopping to speak with various guests. Lord Peterson discussed his latest business venture, while Lady Morrison shared stories about her grandchildren. Kate participated in each conversation, but she felt like she was watching herself from outside her body. Everything seemed distant and surreal. The dinner portion of the evening began, and Kate was grateful to finally sit down. The ballroom was arranged with round tables, each decorated with white roses and golden candles. The soft lighting should have been relaxing, but Kate found it difficult to focus on anything for more than a few seconds. William sat beside her, occasionally placing a gentle hand on her back when he thought no one was looking. "How are you holding up?" he whispered during a brief moment when the other guests were distracted by the wine service. "I'm managing," Kate replied, though she barely touched her soup. The smell of food, usually appealing, made her stomach turn. She sipped water instead, hoping it would help settle her growing nausea. The evening's program began with speeches from various hospital administrators and major donors. Kate applauded at the appropriate moments, but the voices seemed to fade in and out like a radio with poor reception. She found herself gripping the edge of the table, trying to anchor herself to something solid. Dr. Williams, the hospital's chief pediatrician, took the stage to share stories about the children who would benefit from the new facilities. His words should have been inspiring, but Kate struggled to concentrate on their meaning. The room felt increasingly warm, and she could feel a thin layer of perspiration forming on her forehead. William noticed her pale complexion and leaned closer.
"Kate, you're looking very pale."
"Perhaps we should step outside for some air." She shook her head, not trusting herself to speak. The last thing she wanted was to create a scene or draw attention away from the important cause they were supporting. She had always prided herself on her professionalism and dedication to her royal duties. As the evening progressed, Kate's condition continued to deteriorate. The sounds in the room became muffled, as if she were underwater. The faces around her blurred together, and she found it increasingly difficult to maintain her composure. Her hands began to tremble slightly, and she clasped them together in her lap to hide the shaking. The auction portion of the evening began, with various luxury items being presented for bidding. Kate watched the auctioneer's animated gestures, but his words seemed to come from very far away. The numbers he called out echoed strangely in her head, and she felt a cold sweat breaking out across her skin. William bid on several items, including a painting that Kate had admired earlier. Under normal circumstances, she would have been delighted by his thoughtfulness, but tonight she could barely register what was happening around her. The room seemed to be closing in on her, and each breath required more effort than the last. "Ladies and gentlemen," the auctioneer announced, "we'll now take a brief intermission before presenting our final auction items." This was Kate's chance. She needed to excuse herself, perhaps splash some cold water on her face and regain her composure. She began to stand, placing one hand on William's shoulder for support and the other on the table. But as she rose from her chair, the room suddenly tilted at an impossible angle. The crystal chandeliers above seemed to swirl like a kaleidoscope, and the voices around her faded to a distant whisper. Her legs felt like they were made of jelly, unable to support her weight. William looked up just in time to see the color drain completely from Kate's face. Her eyes rolled back slightly and her body began to sway dangerously. In that split second, he knew what was about to happen. William's reflexes kicked in instantly. Years of military training had taught him to react quickly in crisis situations, and this was no different. As Kate's body began to fall backward, he lunged forward, catching her just before she hit the marble floor. His strong arms wrapped around her waist, and he gently lowered her into his lap, cradling her unconscious form. The entire ballroom erupted into chaos. Guests gasped and stood up from their tables, some rushing forward to help, while others pulled out their phones. The elegant atmosphere of the charity banquet was instantly shattered by the emergency unfolding before everyone's eyes. "Call for a doctor immediately," William shouted, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to giving orders in difficult situations. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by visible panic as he looked down at Kate's pale face. Her breathing was shallow and her body felt unnaturally warm in his arms. Dr. Reynolds, one of the guests who happened to be a physician, pushed through the crowd and knelt beside them. "Your Highness, I'm a doctor. May I examine her?" His professional training took over as he assessed the situation quickly. William nodded frantically. "Please help her. She's been feeling unwell lately, but nothing like this." Dr. Reynolds checked Kate's pulse and lifted her eyelids to examine her pupils. Her heartbeat was rapid but steady, and her breathing, while shallow, was regular. "Has she eaten today? Has she been under any unusual stress?" "She barely touched her dinner tonight," William replied, his voice tight with worry. "She's been tired lately, more than usual. We thought it was just the busy schedule, but—" He trailed off, realizing how foolish they had been to ignore the warning signs. Security personnel appeared almost instantly, forming a protective circle around the royal couple to give them privacy while maintaining order in the ballroom. The head of security, James Mitchell, spoke quietly into his radio, requesting immediate medical assistance and transportation. Kate's eyes fluttered open briefly, and she looked around in confusion. The bright lights above her seemed to pierce through her skull, and the worried faces surrounding her appeared distorted. "William?" she whispered weakly, her voice barely audible. "I'm here, darling. You're safe," William said softly, stroking her hair gently. "You fainted, but you're going to be all right. The doctor is here." She tried to sit up, but Dr. Reynolds gently pressed her shoulder back down. "Please don't try to move just yet, Your Highness. You need to rest for a moment while we make sure you're stable." The crowd of onlookers had grown larger, despite security's efforts to maintain order. Whispers and murmurs filled the air as people speculated about what had happened. Some guests were already posting updates on social media, and William knew that news of Kate's collapse would spread rapidly. "We need to get her out of here," William said quietly to James. "Somewhere private where she can recover properly." James nodded and spoke into his earpiece again. "The hotel manager is preparing a private room on the executive floor. Medical personnel are on their way up now." Dr. Reynolds continued his examination, checking Kate's blood pressure with a portable device he had retrieved from his medical bag. "Her blood pressure is quite low, which explains the fainting episode. Has she been experiencing any other symptoms recently?" William thought back over the past few weeks. "She's been more tired than usual, and she mentioned feeling dizzy a few times. She's also been having trouble sleeping and hasn't had much of an appetite." The doctor nodded thoughtfully. "These symptoms together suggest she may be dealing with exhaustion, or possibly an underlying medical condition. She needs proper medical evaluation as soon as possible." Kate's eyes opened again, and this time she seemed more alert. She looked around at the circle of concerned faces and immediately felt embarrassed. "I'm so sorry," she said weakly. "I've ruined the evening for everyone." "Don't be ridiculous," William said firmly. "The only thing that matters is that you're okay. Everything else can wait." Mrs. Henderson, the fundraiser organizer, approached cautiously. "Your Highness, please don't worry about the event. We can handle everything from here. Your health is far more important than any fundraiser." Kate tried to smile, but the effort seemed to drain what little energy she had left. "Thank you for understanding. I really wanted tonight to be perfect for the children." "And it has been," Mrs. Henderson assured her. "The donations tonight have exceeded our expectations, and that's largely because of your dedication to this cause. Now you need to focus on taking care of yourself." The medical team arrived with a stretcher, but Kate insisted she could walk with assistance. William and Dr. Reynolds helped her to her feet, supporting her on either side as they made their way slowly toward the exit. Her legs still felt unsteady, and she was grateful for their strong arms keeping her upright. As they moved through the ballroom, the other guests respectfully stepped back to create a clear path. Many called out words of encouragement and well wishes, their genuine concern evident on their faces. Despite the circumstances, Kate was touched by the outpouring of support from people she had only met briefly that evening. The hotel's executive suite had been quickly converted into a temporary medical facility. The medical team had brought portable equipment to monitor Kate's vital signs and assess her condition more thoroughly. The elegant sitting room now looked like a small emergency clinic, with medical bags and monitoring devices arranged on the coffee table. William helped Kate settle onto the plush sofa, while the medical team prepared their equipment. She still looked pale and fragile, but her breathing had improved and she seemed more alert than she had been immediately after the collapse. "I feel so foolish," Kate said quietly, looking at all the medical equipment being set up for her benefit. "All this fuss over a simple fainting spell." "It's not foolish at all," Dr. Reynolds said as he attached a blood pressure cuff to her arm. "Fainting episodes can be symptoms of serious underlying conditions. It's important that we determine what caused this." The blood pressure reading confirmed that her levels were still dangerously low. The medical team began asking detailed questions about her recent health history, diet, sleep patterns, and stress levels. William answered many of the questions since Kate seemed to be having difficulty concentrating. A blood test was performed to check for anemia, blood sugar levels, and other potential causes of her collapse. Kate winced slightly as the needle went into her arm, but she remained cooperative throughout the examination. As they waited for the initial test results, Kate leaned against William's shoulder, finally allowing herself to admit how terrible she had been feeling. The adrenaline from the evening's events was wearing off, and the exhaustion she had been fighting for weeks was overwhelming her completely. The ride to the hospital was tense and quiet. Despite Kate's protests that she felt better, William and Dr. Reynolds had insisted on a comprehensive medical evaluation. The ambulance crew monitored her vital signs carefully while William held her hand, trying to project calm despite his racing heart. "I hate causing all this trouble," Kate whispered, watching the city lights blur past the ambulance window. "Tomorrow the newspapers will be full of speculation about what happened." William squeezed her hand gently. "Let them speculate. The only thing that matters is finding out why you collapsed and making sure it doesn't happen again." At St. Mary's Hospital, they were met by Dr. Sarah Chen, a highly respected internist who had been called in specifically to handle Kate's case. The emergency department had been cleared to ensure privacy, and Kate was quickly moved to a private examination room away from any potential media attention. Dr. Chen was thorough and professional, taking a detailed medical history while conducting a complete physical examination. She asked about everything from Kate's childhood illnesses to her recent stress levels, leaving no detail unexplored. "When did you first start noticing these symptoms?" Dr. Chen asked, making notes on her tablet as she spoke. Kate thought carefully. "The exhaustion started maybe 3 months ago. I thought it was just the busy season with all our royal engagements. But the dizziness and loss of appetite have only been happening for the past few weeks. Have you experienced any chest pain, shortness of breath, or heart palpitations?" "Sometimes my heart races for no reason, especially when I stand up quickly," Kate admitted. "But I assumed that was normal when you're tired." Dr. Chen nodded and continued her examination. She listened carefully to Kate's heart and lungs, checked her reflexes, and examined her eyes with a small flashlight. Each test provided more pieces to the puzzle of Kate's declining health. The blood work results arrived within an hour, and Dr. Chen studied them carefully before addressing Kate and William. The good news is that your blood sugar levels are normal, so we can rule out diabetes. However, your iron levels are significantly low, which suggests anemia. Anemia? William asked. What does that mean exactly? Anemia occurs when your body doesn't have enough healthy red blood cells to carry adequate oxygen to your tissues, Dr. Chen explained. This can cause fatigue, dizziness, weakness, and fainting episodes. Exactly the symptoms Kate has been experiencing. Kate felt a mixture of relief and concern. Is it serious? How did this happen? Dr. Chen sat down beside the bed, her expression serious but reassuring. There are several types of anemia, and we need to determine which type you have and what's causing it. Iron deficiency anemia is the most common, and it can be caused by various factors including poor diet, heavy menstrual periods, or internal bleeding. The mention of internal bleeding made both Kate and William stiffen with worry. Dr. Chen noticed their reaction immediately. Please don't panic, she said quickly. Internal bleeding is just one possibility, and often it's something much less serious. Many women develop iron deficiency anemia simply from heavy periods combined with not getting enough iron in their diet. Kate thought about her eating habits lately. With her busy schedule, she had been skipping meals frequently and relying on quick snacks instead of proper nutrition. The stress of royal duties had also affected her appetite significantly. I haven't been eating very well lately, Kate admitted. I've been so busy that I often forget to eat proper meals. That could definitely be a contributing factor, Dr. Chen agreed. But we need to do additional tests to get the complete picture. I'd like to schedule you for some blood work tomorrow to check your iron stores more thoroughly, and possibly an endoscopy to rule out any gastrointestinal issues. William's face went pale at the mention of additional tests. What kind of gastrointestinal issues are you concerned about? Dr. Chen chose her words carefully. Sometimes anemia can be caused by small amounts of bleeding in the stomach or intestines that you might not notice. It's usually something treatable like an ulcer, but we need to be thorough in our investigation. Kate nodded, appreciating the doctor's honesty, even though the possibilities were frightening. How long will it take to get answers? We should have a clearer picture within a few days, Dr. Chen replied. In the meantime, I'm going to prescribe iron supplements and recommend some dietary changes. I also want you to take at least a week off from your official duties to rest. A week off? Kate protested. I have important meetings scheduled, and there's a state dinner next Tuesday that I absolutely cannot miss. Dr. Chen's expression became stern. Your Highness, with all due respect, your body is telling you that it needs rest. If you continue pushing yourself at this pace without addressing the underlying problem, you could have more serious episodes. Tonight's collapse could have resulted in a serious injury if your husband hadn't caught you. William supported the doctor's recommendation immediately. Kate, she's right. Your health has to come first. We can reschedule meetings and find other ways to handle your commitments. Kate felt tears forming in her eyes, partly from exhaustion and partly from frustration. She had always prided herself on never letting people down, on always fulfilling her responsibilities no matter what. The idea of canceling important events felt like a failure. The Children's Hospital project, she said weakly. I promised to visit the construction site this week to show support for the workers. And you will, William assured her. When you're feeling better and the doctors have given you clearance. The workers will understand and the project isn't going anywhere. Dr. Chen handed Kate a prescription and a list of iron-rich foods. Start with these supplements tonight and try to incorporate more leafy greens, lean meat, and legumes into your diet. Avoid caffeine and dairy products right around mealtimes, as they can interfere with iron absorption. A nurse came in with discharge papers and instructions for follow-up care. Kate would need to return in 2 days for additional blood work and to discuss the results of tonight's tests with her regular physician. As they prepared to leave the hospital, Kate felt overwhelmed by everything that had happened. A few hours ago, she had been getting ready for what should have been a wonderful evening supporting a cause close to her heart. Now she was facing the possibility of a serious medical condition and being forced to step back from her royal duties. I'm scared, she admitted to William as they walked slowly toward the car, her arm linked through his for support. William stopped and turned to face her, taking both of her hands in his. We're going to figure this out together. Whatever it is, we'll handle it. but you have to promise me that you'll follow the doctor's orders and take care of yourself." Kate nodded, knowing that she didn't really have a choice. Her body had made the decision for her tonight, when it refused to continue functioning under the stress and neglect she had been putting it through. The next morning brought unwelcome attention from the media. Kate woke up to find her phone buzzing constantly with messages from her press secretary, friends, and family members who had seen the news reports about her collapse. Headlines ranged from concerned to wildly speculative, with some publications suggesting everything from pregnancy to serious illness. "Royal health scare, Duchess collapses at charity banquet," read one headline, while another proclaimed, "Palace in crisis as Kate rushed to hospital." The photos showed William catching her as she fainted, his face etched with worry and panic. William had already been awake for hours, fielding calls from palace officials and trying to manage the media storm. He brought Kate breakfast in bed: scrambled eggs, spinach, and orange juice, all foods high in iron according to Dr. Chen's recommendations. "How bad is it?" Kate asked, gesturing toward his phone, which hadn't stopped ringing. "Nothing we can't handle," William replied, though his tired expression suggested otherwise. "The palace press office is preparing a statement saying that you're resting and will return to duties when medically cleared. They're not speculating about the cause." Kate picked at her breakfast, still struggling with her appetite despite knowing she needed to eat. The iron supplements Dr. Chen had prescribed sat on her bedside table, large pills that seemed daunting to swallow. "I keep thinking about last night," Kate said quietly. "What if you hadn't caught me? What if I had hit my head on the marble floor?" William sat on the edge of the bed and took her hand. "But I did catch you, and you're going to be fine. Dr. Chen said that anemia is very treatable once we know what's causing it." Their conversation was interrupted by a gentle knock on the bedroom door. Kate's mother, Carol, peeked in with a concerned expression. She had driven over immediately after seeing the news reports. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" Carol asked, settling into the chair beside the bed. "I was so worried when I saw the news this morning." "I'm better, just tired," Kate replied, grateful for her mother's presence. "The doctors think it's anemia, but they need to do more tests to be sure." Carol nodded thoughtfully. "Your grandmother had anemia when she was about your age. It took months for doctors to figure out she had celiac disease, which was preventing her body from absorbing nutrients properly." This was new information to Kate, and she wondered if there might be a genetic component to her condition. She made a mental note to mention this family history to Dr. Chen during her follow-up appointment. The day passed slowly, with Kate trying to rest while managing the constant stream of well-wishers and official business that couldn't wait. Her private secretary, Amanda, stopped by with a stack of documents that required her attention, though she had been instructed to keep it to the absolute minimum. "The Children's Hospital has sent flowers and a lovely card from the young patients," Amanda reported, showing Kate a colorful handmade card covered in drawings and signatures. "They want you to know they're thinking of you and hoping you feel better soon." Kate's eyes filled with tears as she looked at the card. One drawing showed a stick figure labeled Princess Kate with a crown and a big smile. Below it, a child had written in shaky handwriting, "Get well soon." "We love you. I hate that I've disappointed them," Kate said, wiping her eyes. "They were counting on my visit this week." "They're not disappointed," Amanda assured her. "They understand that sometimes people get sick and need to rest. The hospital administrator said the children have been drawing get-well pictures for you all morning." Dr. Chen called in the afternoon with updates on the additional blood tests that had been ordered. Kate's iron levels were indeed severely depleted, and her vitamin B12 levels were also lower than normal. These findings supported the anemia diagnosis but didn't yet explain the underlying cause. "I'd like to schedule you for an upper endoscopy tomorrow," Dr. Chen explained over the phone. "It's a simple procedure where we use a thin, flexible tube with a camera to examine your esophagus, stomach, and upper small intestine. We can do it under light sedation, and you'll be able to go home the same day." Kate felt anxious about the procedure, but she knew it was necessary. "What exactly are you looking for?" "We want to rule out any sources of internal bleeding, such as ulcers or inflammatory conditions. We'll also take some small tissue samples to check for conditions like celiac disease or H. pylori bacteria, both of which can interfere with nutrient absorption." After hanging up the phone, Kate felt overwhelmed by all the medical terminology and possibilities. Each potential diagnosis seemed to lead to more questions and more tests. William found her crying quietly in their sitting room later that afternoon. She had been looking through photos on her phone from happier times, recent family vacations, successful royal engagements, moments when she felt strong and healthy. "I feel like my body is betraying me," she said through her tears. "I've always been healthy and strong. I've never had to worry about medical problems before." William sat beside her and pulled her into his arms. "Your body isn't betraying you. It's telling you that you need to take better care of yourself. Think about everything you've been through these past few months. The overseas tour, the charity campaign launch, all those late-night events. You've been running on empty for weeks." Kate knew he was right, but admitting it felt like acknowledging a personal failure. "I just wanted to do everything well. The hospital project means so much to me, and there are so many other causes that need attention. And they'll still need attention when you're healthy again," William reminded her. "But if you don't take care of yourself now, you won't be able to help anyone in the long run." That evening, Kate received an unexpected visitor. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, her longtime family physician, stopped by for an informal checkup. She had been following Kate's case closely and wanted to see how she was adjusting to the iron supplements and dietary changes. "How are you feeling today compared to yesterday?" Dr. Warren asked, checking Kate's pulse and blood pressure. "A little better, I think," Kate replied honestly. "I slept for almost 10 hours last night, which hasn't happened in months. But I still feel weak when I stand up too quickly." Dr. Warren nodded. "That's normal with anemia. Your red blood cell count is low, so your body has to work harder to deliver oxygen to your organs. The supplements will help, but it takes time to rebuild your iron stores." They discussed the upcoming endoscopy procedure, and Dr. Warren explained what Kate could expect. The procedure itself would only take about 30 minutes and she would be sedated throughout. The recovery time was minimal, but she would need someone to drive her home since the sedation would make her drowsy. "I want you to know that most of these procedures turn out fine," Dr. Warren said reassuringly. "We're being thorough because that's the responsible thing to do. But the majority of anemia cases are easily treatable once we identify the cause." Kate felt somewhat comforted by this reassurance, though she couldn't shake her anxiety about the unknown. Tomorrow would bring answers, but it would also potentially bring new challenges and treatment plans. As she prepared for bed that night, Kate took her iron supplement and reflected on how much her life had changed in just 24 hours. Yesterday morning, she had been focused on the evening's charity banquet and her busy week ahead. Tonight, she was facing medical procedures and an uncertain timeline for returning to her normal activities. William helped her arrange her pillows and brought her a glass of water for her medication. His constant presence and care had been her anchor through the chaos and uncertainty. "Whatever happens tomorrow, we'll handle it together," he promised, kissing her forehead gently. The endoscopy procedure was scheduled for early morning at a private clinic to avoid media attention. Kate had fasted since midnight as instructed, and she felt nervous and lightheaded as they arrived at the medical facility. William stayed by her side throughout the pre-procedure preparations, holding her hand as the medical team explained what would happen. Dr. Martinez, the gastroenterologist who would perform the endoscopy, was gentle and thorough in explaining the process. "You'll receive mild sedation through an IV, and then I'll insert a thin, flexible tube through your mouth to examine your digestive tract. The entire procedure takes about 20 to 30 minutes, and you won't feel any discomfort." Kate nodded, though her anxiety was evident. She had never had a medical procedure like this before, and the unknown aspects made her nervous. "Will you be able to see immediately if there's something wrong?" "I'll be able to see any obvious abnormalities right away," Dr. Martinez explained. "If I find any areas of concern, I'll take small tissue samples for laboratory analysis. Those results will take a few days to come back." The sedation took effect quickly, and Kate felt herself drifting into a peaceful sleep. William waited anxiously in the recovery area, checking his phone constantly for updates from the medical team. He tried to read the newspapers to distract himself, but his mind kept wandering to worst-case scenarios. An hour later, Dr. Martinez emerged from the procedure room with a cautiously optimistic expression. "The procedure went very well," he told William. "I found some mild inflammation in her stomach lining, which could explain the iron deficiency. There's no evidence of active bleeding or any serious abnormalities." William felt a wave of relief wash over him. What causes stomach inflammation? Is it serious? It can be caused by several factors: stress, certain medications, bacterial infections, or dietary issues. Dr. Martinez explained. I took some tissue samples to test for H. pylori bacteria, which is a common cause of gastritis. If that's what we find, it's easily treatable with antibiotics. Kate woke up slowly in the recovery room, feeling groggy but peaceful from the sedation. William was sitting beside her bed, and his relieved smile was the first thing she focused on as her vision cleared. How did it go? She asked, her voice slightly hoarse from the procedure. Very well, William replied, squeezing her hand gently. Dr. Martinez found some inflammation, but nothing serious. No bleeding or major problems. Kate felt tears of relief forming in her eyes. So I'm going to be okay? You're going to be fine, William assured her. We should have the complete results in a few days, but the doctor seems very optimistic. The drive home was quiet and peaceful. Kate dozed against William's shoulder while he handled several phone calls with palace staff and family members, sharing the positive news from the procedure. The media had been camping outside the clinic, but security had managed to keep them at a respectful distance. Over the next few days, Kate focused on following her doctor's orders strictly. She took her iron supplements religiously, ate iron-rich foods at every meal, and tried to rest as much as possible. The forced break from her royal duties was actually becoming welcome, as she realized how exhausted she had truly been. Dr. Chen called 3 days later with the tissue sample results. Kate put the call on speaker so William could hear the news as well. The biopsy results show that you have H. pylori bacteria in your stomach, Dr. Chen announced. This bacteria causes chronic inflammation that interferes with iron absorption and can lead to the anemia you've been experiencing. Kate felt relieved to finally have a definitive diagnosis. Is it serious? How do we treat it? It's very treatable, Dr. Chen assured her. H. pylori infections are quite common, affecting about half the world's population at some point in their lives. We'll treat it with a combination of antibiotics and acid-reducing medications for about 2 weeks. William asked the questions that Kate was too overwhelmed to think of. How long until she starts feeling better? When can she return to her normal activities? The antibiotics will start working immediately, but it may take several weeks for her iron levels to improve significantly, Dr. Chen explained. I'd recommend staying on modified duties for at least another 2 weeks, then gradually returning to full activities as her energy improves. Kate felt a mixture of relief and impatience. She was grateful to have answers and a treatment plan, but the thought of being away from her royal duties for several more weeks felt challenging. Can I at least do some desk work? Answer correspondence and attend virtual meetings? She asked hopefully. Dr. Chen considered this carefully. Light duties should be fine as long as you're not overdoing it. Listen to your body, and if you feel tired or weak, rest immediately. The most important thing right now is giving your body time to heal. The treatment regimen was more complex than Kate had expected. She had to take multiple medications at specific times throughout the day, avoid certain foods that could interfere with the antibiotics, and continue with the iron supplements. William helped her organize a medication schedule and reminded her when it was time for each dose. The palace press office issued a statement explaining that Kate had been diagnosed with a treatable bacterial infection and would be returning to limited duties within the week. The public response was overwhelmingly supportive, with thousands of well wishes pouring in from around the world. Children from the hospital she supported sent more artwork and letters, including one from a young girl named Emma who wrote, "Dear Princess Kate, my mom had bacteria in her tummy too, and the medicine made her feel much better. I hope you feel better soon so you can come visit us." Reading these messages brought Kate both joy and motivation to recover quickly. She realized that by being open about her health challenges, she might be helping other people who were going through similar experiences. Dr. Warren visited again to monitor Kate's progress and adjust her treatment plan. "Your color is already improving," she observed, checking Kate's eyes and nail beds for signs of anemia. "How's your energy level?" "Better than last week, but I still get tired easily," Kate replied honestly. "Yesterday I tried to walk around the gardens for 20 minutes and had to sit down twice." "That's completely normal," Dr. Warren assured her. "Your body is working hard to fight the infection and rebuild your iron stores. Think of it as recovering from a marathon. You can't expect to run another one immediately." William had been incredibly supportive throughout the entire ordeal, but Kate could see that the stress was taking its toll on him as well. He had taken on additional royal duties to cover for her absence, while also managing his own schedule and caring for her. "I feel guilty that you're having to do everything," Kate told him one evening as they sat quietly in their living room. "You have your own commitments and responsibilities." William set down the briefing papers he had been reviewing and moved to sit beside her on the sofa.
Taking care of you isn't a burden.
"It's exactly what I want to be doing right now. Besides, this experience has taught me how much you've been carrying on your own shoulders." Kate leaned against him, feeling grateful for his unwavering support. "I never realized how much I was pushing myself until my body forced me to stop. Maybe this whole experience is teaching me something important about balance." "Maybe it's teaching both of us," William replied thoughtfully. "We've both been so focused on meeting everyone else's expectations that we forgot to pay attention to what our own bodies and minds needed." As Kate continued her treatment and recovery, she began to see this health crisis as an opportunity for positive change, rather than just an obstacle to overcome. 2 weeks into her treatment, Kate was beginning to feel like herself again. The antibiotics had eliminated the H. pylori bacteria, and her stomach inflammation was significantly reduced. Her iron supplements were slowly rebuilding her depleted stores, and she noticed improvements in her energy level each day. "I actually woke up this morning without feeling dizzy," she told William over breakfast, excitement evident in her voice. "And look, my appetite is coming back." She gestured to her plate of eggs Benedict, which she was enjoying for the first time in months. William smiled, relieved to see her enthusiasm returning. "Dr. Chen will be pleased to hear that. She's been worried about your weight loss." Kate had indeed lost several pounds during the worst of her illness, partly from poor appetite and partly from the body's struggle to absorb nutrients properly. Now her clothes were fitting better again, and her face had regained some of its natural color. The palace had scheduled a gradual return to royal duties, starting with virtual meetings and correspondence review. Kate's private secretary, Amanda, brought a carefully curated selection of letters and invitations that required her personal attention. "The Children's Hospital has invited you to a virtual story time session with some of the young patients," Amanda suggested. "It would be low-key but would show your continued commitment to the cause." Kate's face lit up at the suggestion. "That sounds perfect. When can we arrange it?" "This afternoon, if you're feeling up to it. The hospital staff will set up the video call and you can read to about a dozen children who are currently in treatment." The virtual story session turned out to be exactly what Kate needed. Seeing the children's excited faces on her computer screen reminded her why her royal work was so important. She read them a story about a brave princess who overcame challenges through kindness and perseverance, themes that felt particularly relevant to her own recent experiences. One little boy named Tommy, who was undergoing cancer treatment, asked her during the question session, "Princess Kate, were you really sick too?" "My mom said you had to take medicine like me." Kate considered her response carefully. "Yes, Tommy. I was sick for a while and I had to take medicine to feel better. Sometimes even grown-ups get sick and need help from doctors." "Did the medicine taste yucky?" asked a little girl named Sophie, making Kate laugh. "It wasn't the most delicious thing I've ever tasted," Kate admitted. "But I knew it would help me feel better, so I took it anyway. Just like you're doing with your medicine." The children's questions and comments reminded Kate that her experience could be valuable in connecting with others facing health challenges. She had always been good at her royal duties, but this personal experience had given her a deeper understanding of what patients and families go through. After the virtual session, Kate felt energized in a way she hadn't experienced in months. The interaction had been meaningful and fulfilling without being physically demanding. She realized that this might be a model for how she could balance her royal responsibilities with her health needs going forward. Dr. Chen's follow-up appointment the next day brought excellent news. Kate's blood work showed significant improvement in her iron levels, and her red blood cell count was returning to normal ranges. The H. pylori infection had been completely eliminated, and her stomach inflammation was nearly resolved. "I'm very pleased with your progress," Dr. Chen said, reviewing the test results. "Your body has responded beautifully to the treatment. How are you feeling?" "Much better," Kate replied honestly. "I have energy again and I'm sleeping well. I don't get dizzy when I stand up anymore." "That's wonderful to hear." I think you're ready to start increasing your activity level gradually. We'll continue monitoring your iron levels monthly for a while, but I see no reason why you can't return to modified royal duties. William asked about long-term considerations. Is there anything we need to watch for going forward? Could this happen again? Dr. Chen explained that H. pylori infections could recur, but were less likely once successfully treated. The key was maintaining good nutrition, managing stress levels, and not ignoring warning signs if they appeared. The most important lesson from this experience, Dr. Chen said, is listening to your body. Kate's symptoms had been building for months, but she pushed through them until her body forced her to stop. Kate nodded, understanding the truth in this statement. I kept thinking I could handle everything if I just tried harder. I didn't realize that ignoring my health was actually making me less effective at everything else. The doctor prescribed a maintenance plan that included continued iron supplementation for 3 months, regular blood work monitoring, and specific nutritional guidelines. She also recommended stress management techniques and emphasized the importance of adequate sleep. Palace officials were eager to have Kate return to full duties, but William advocated strongly for a gradual transition. They developed a modified schedule that would allow her to take on increasing responsibilities while maintaining adequate rest periods. The world won't end if you take an extra day between engagements, William told her when she expressed concern about disappointing people. In fact, you'll probably be more effective when you're well-rested and healthy. Kate's first public appearance since her collapse was scheduled for the following week, a small, private ceremony to thank the medical staff who had cared for her. She wanted to acknowledge their professionalism and discretion during her health crisis. As she prepared for this return to public life, Kate reflected on how much she had learned about herself and her priorities. The forced break from her usual pace had given her perspective on what truly mattered and what she could let go. I keep thinking about what Tommy asked me during the story session, she told William, as they walked slowly through their garden. About whether the medicine tasted bad. These children face so much more than I did, but they're so brave about it. William nodded. Maybe your experience will help you connect with patients and families in a new way. Sometimes going through something difficult yourself gives you credibility and empathy that you can't get any other way. Kate realized that this health crisis, as frightening as it had been, might ultimately make her a more effective advocate for healthcare causes. She had gained first-hand understanding of what it felt like to be a patient, to depend on medical professionals, and to face uncertainty about your health. The evening before her return to public duties, Kate spent time organizing her thoughts about the experience. She wanted to be prepared for questions about her health while maintaining appropriate privacy. Most importantly, she wanted to focus attention back on the causes she supported rather than on her personal medical journey. I'm nervous, she admitted to William as they prepared for bed. What if I'm not ready? What if I get tired or overwhelmed? William took her hands and looked directly into her eyes. Then we'll handle it. You'll listen to your body, and if you need to rest or leave early, we'll do that. The most important thing is that you're healthy and happy. Kate felt reassured by his support and by how much stronger she felt compared to a month ago. She was ready to return to the work she loved, but with a new appreciation for balance and self-care. 3 months later, Kate stood in the newly constructed wing of the Children's Hospital, watching young patients enjoy the bright, cheerful space that had been funded by the charity banquet, where she had collapsed. The irony wasn't lost on her. What had seemed like her worst moment had ultimately led to positive changes in both her life and the lives of these children. Princess Kate, called out Emma, the little girl who had sent her a get-well letter during her recovery. Emma was walking better now after her surgery, and her face beamed with excitement. Look, I can walk really good now. Kate knelt down to Emma's level, genuinely delighted to see her progress. You look wonderful, Emma. How are you feeling? Much better. And guess what? I read that story you sent me about the brave princess to my little brother. He loved it too. The conversation reminded Kate of how much her perspective on her royal duties had changed. Before her health crisis, she had seen her role primarily as showing up, looking appropriate and saying the right things. Now she understood that her most meaningful impact came from genuine human connections and shared experiences. Dr. Williams, the hospital's chief pediatrician, joined them in the new wing's playroom. Your Highness, I can't thank you enough for your continued support. The funds raised at the banquet, even with the evening's unexpected interruption. Exceeded our goals by 30%, Kate smiled, remembering how worried she had been about ruining the fundraising event. I was so concerned that my collapse had disrupted everything and disappointed the donors. Quite the opposite, Dr. Williams assured her. When word spread about why you had been feeling unwell, the stress and exhaustion from trying to do so much good work, people were even more motivated to support the cause. Several major donors increased their contributions specifically because they admired your dedication. William, who had been talking with some hospital administrators, rejoined Kate and Dr. Williams. "How are you feeling?" he asked quietly, a question that had become routine during Kate's gradual return to full duties. "Great, actually," Kate replied, and she meant it. The past few months of recovery had taught her to pay attention to her body's signals, and today she felt strong and energetic. "I could probably stay here all afternoon." Her stamina had returned gradually but completely. The iron supplements had rebuilt her depleted stores, and the H. pylori treatment had restored her body's ability to absorb nutrients properly. More importantly, she had learned to manage her schedule and stress levels in sustainable ways. The new wing included several innovative features that Kate had advocated for during the planning process. There were family sleeping areas so parents could stay close to their children, play therapy rooms designed to help children cope with medical procedures, and healing gardens where patients could experience nature during their recovery. The healing garden was inspired by your suggestion about the importance of peaceful environments, Dr. Williams mentioned as they walked through the outdoor space. You mentioned during your virtual story session that spending time in your own garden had been crucial to your recovery. Kate had indeed found solace in nature during her weeks of recovery. Some of her most peaceful moments had been spent walking slowly through their gardens, appreciating the changing seasons and letting herself heal at her own pace. Tommy, the little boy who had asked her about medicine during the virtual story time, was now in remission and visiting the hospital for a routine checkup. He ran up to Kate with enthusiasm, his energy a stark contrast to the tired child she had spoken with months earlier. "Princess Kate, I finished my medicine. And guess what? I'm going back to school next week." Kate felt tears of joy forming in her eyes. "Tommy, that's the most wonderful news. Are you excited about going back to school?" "Yes, and I told my teacher about how you taught me that sometimes medicine tastes bad, but we have to take it anyway to feel better." She said that was very wise. These interactions reminded Kate why her health crisis had ultimately been a gift, despite the fear and uncertainty it had caused. Her shared experience with illness had created authentic connections with patients and families that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. Amanda, her private secretary, appeared at her elbow with a gentle reminder about timing. "Your Highness, we should start heading to the ceremonial opening in 10 minutes. The formal opening ceremony was being held in the hospital's main auditorium, where Kate would give a speech and officially dedicate the new wing. Unlike her previous speeches, which had been carefully scripted and formal, today's remarks would include personal reflections on health, healing, and community support. As they walked toward the auditorium, Dr. Chen appeared in the hallway. She was attending the ceremony as both a medical professional and someone who had played a crucial role in Kate's recovery. "How lovely to see you looking so well," Dr. Chen said warmly. "You're practically glowing with health." "I feel better than I have in years," Kate replied honestly. "And I have you and your colleagues to thank for that. The diagnosis and treatment plan saved my life." Dr. Chen shook her head modestly. "You did the hard work of taking care of yourself and following the treatment plan. Many patients struggle with the lifestyle changes required for full recovery." The conversation reminded Kate of how difficult the early weeks of recovery had been. Learning to say no to commitments, prioritizing rest over productivity, and accepting help from others had challenged her deeply ingrained patterns of behavior. The auditorium was filled with hospital staff, donors, patients' families, and community members. Kate felt calm and confident as she approached the podium, a stark contrast to how overwhelmed she had felt at similar events before her health crisis. "Today we celebrate not just a new medical facility, but the power of community to heal and support one another," Kate began her speech. "Over the past year, I have learned personally about the importance of excellent medical care, the value of rest and recovery, and the strength that comes from allowing others to help us." She spoke about the children she had met, and their inspiring resilience in facing health challenges. She talked about the dedicated medical professionals who had cared for her and countless other patients with skill and compassion. Most importantly, she emphasized that seeking medical help and taking time to recover were signs of wisdom, not weakness. I hope that by sharing my own experience with illness and recovery, I can encourage others to listen to their bodies, seek help when needed, and prioritize their health as the foundation for everything else they want to accomplish, she concluded. The audience responded with sustained applause, but more meaningful to Kate were the individual conversations that followed. Several people approached her to share their own stories of health struggles and recovery, creating connections that felt deeply authentic and purposeful. As the day concluded, Kate and William drove home together, both reflecting on how much their lives had changed since that frightening evening at the charity banquet. "Do you ever regret what happened?" William asked as they walked into their home. "The health scare, the forced rest, all the changes we've had to make?" Kate considered the question seriously. "I regret that it took a crisis to teach me these lessons. I wish I had learned to take better care of myself before my body forced me to stop. But honestly, I think this experience has made me a better person and a more effective advocate for the causes I care about." She looked around their home, remembering the week she had spent recovering here, learning to prioritize her health and well-being. "Plus, I think we're happier now, aren't we? We spend more time together, we appreciate the simple things more, and we both understand what really matters." William agreed, pulling her into his arms. "I was terrified that night when you collapsed. But watching you recover and seeing how you've grown from this experience has been incredible. You're stronger now, but also wiser about your limits." Kate smiled, feeling grateful for the journey that had brought them to this point. Her health crisis had been frightening and disruptive, but it had ultimately led to positive changes that benefited not only her own life, but also her ability to serve others. As they settled in for a quiet evening together, Kate reflected on the unexpected ways that challenges can become opportunities for growth and deeper purpose. Sometimes the moments that seem like endings are actually new beginnings in disguise.